host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we are going to have a very special guest, a real estate expert coming to the show. This man is one of the youngest CEOs I have ever met, and you won't want to miss. He has that Stephen Hawking's, that Steve Jobs mind, just an incredible mind, the kind of mind that you don't get to experience except in one lifetime. And here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, we get to experience him today. So you won't want to miss 1 second of the nuggets he's laying down on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Stay tuned, stay with us. Here we go. Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and today I have Mr. Mike Kaeding. He's the CEO of Norhart. This man is absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to bring him out. Him and his company, they design, build, and rent apartments. They are transforming the way this is done by incorporating technologies and techniques that have revolutionized this industry, other industries, and is a highly sought after speaker all across the globe. This has resulted in improving quality and reduced costs of housing. And for the real estate investors of my show, you really want to pay attention to the tips and nuggets and the strategies and the mindset that Mr. Kaeding and his team are laying the groundwork on. They have, hacks upon hacks with how to make rent more affordable, the best advice you can do with real estate development, and how to save costs and cut costs without sacrificing real quality, and so much more. This man is actually a force of nature, so you won't want to miss 1 second of what he's sharing today. So without further ado, I can't hold him back any further. Help me welcome to the stage Mr. Mike Kaeding. Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, Mr. Kaeding. Sir, thank you for being here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We appreciate you very, very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sir, I gotta ask, you have an incredible mind. Your bio is extensive, and your company is doing incredible things in the real estate industry. Why the focus on real estate development, real estate in general? Because you could do anything. You could do absolutely anything. Why the focus? What's the need that your company is filling?
You know, if you look at a variety of industries, from industry or manufacturing to agriculture, a lot of these other industries have improved productivity and what they've been doing substantially over the last 60 years, as much as 1,000%. If you look at construction and housing, it has done virtually nothing, just a 10%. If we can apply the technologies and innovations of these other industries into construction, into the way we do housing, we can see massive improvement there. And if you look at housing, the housing costs have been rising at a rate that's faster than salaries have been growing. This is unsustainable. It's created a crisis in America. And if we can fix that, if we can drive down the cost of housing by as much as half, imagine what that could do for Americans. It means someday your rent could be half, your mortgage payment could be half. And the social impact that could have on our society is so meaningful. That's what really drew me to it.
That makes perfect sense. And that makes perfect sense. It's laying the groundwork in the beginning, right? Because if you look at older houses, right, they weren't really built well. They were built with these age-old PVC piping, old steel, not really quality material. And so you're laying the groundwork for the future, right? And the future of housing, the future of real estate. What else? Because I didn't do it justice. What else does your company touch on? And because you're saving, how can people save? Let's touch on what you just mentioned. How can I save in those costs? Because lumber is getting more expensive, the cost of a nail is getting more expensive, and those things kind of are synonymous, right? Because it costs more to build a house. My insurance premiums are going up. Where should I start when it comes to saving in my real estate development?
Yeah. I think one of the first things that we did was recognize how little we know. My dad, my family ultimately started this business, and it was a very small, kind of niche business at the time, very small real estate outfit. And not long after I joined, my dad unexpectedly passed away. And looking back at it, I think the fact that I didn't know a lot was one of the keys, one of the magic points that we had, because we started to ask, why is it being done this way? We started to question everything and start just naively solving the problems that were before us. But there's a lot of things in this industry where people are kind of stuck in their old ways of doing it that we started changing and questioning. So, one of the key things that we started with is integrating all the different parts of construction. Typically, the owner is different than the developer, who's different than the general contractor coordinating all the construction, to the guys actually doing the work, the subcontractors, your plumbers, electricians, HVAC, to your suppliers and your manufacturers. We've taken that all in house, everything from handing the keys to the resident all the way down to shoveling that first scoop of shovel or of dirt. And by bringing it all in house, we can now do some things that most companies can't. And one example of that is by applying techniques from manufacturing. So, Toyota, for example, they produce a car every 55 seconds. They do that through a variety of techniques, but we are now producing apartment units, entire units, every 5 hours. And at least in our world in construction, that's unheard of. That's kind of crazy. But you can look at our buildings. On one end of the building, it's just dirt. And then not far down the line, you have fully completed units that can be rented. And what that little bit of a technique does is you take a 15-month project and you can drop it down to 9 months because you're condensing the space that people are doing work.
I, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Kaeding. I wanted to ask you here because this has been baking my noodle. It's new to me, and it's new to Americans. It's new to all of us. But 3D printing,
Yeah.
3D printing technology, and it's making waves in Eastern Europe and overseas. And is this something that's gonna stick? Is this a viable option to build, to cut costs, right, and to expedite the construction of homes? Because I think the projection now for we're behind. We're grossly behind in our development. There's not
Yeah.
enough houses for the amount of people that are looking for houses. So we're grossly behind. I think it's projected in the next several years we won't even be able to catch up. So everybody's very excited about 3D printing, but is it a feasible option? Is it really doable? I think you're the man to help us kind of debunk that myth if it is a myth.
Yeah, what's interesting is there's a lot of technologies and things that come out in the construction space that sound very exciting. They're new, they're innovative, they're just exciting new things. Um, but what we find is what actually solves problems tends not to be the exciting things that people talk about. So I think 3D printing has a place. Do I think it's the silver bullet that solves construction costs? Absolutely not. It's a piece of the puzzle that can be used in the overall system. To give you another kind of thing that people get excited about is offsite construction. We do elements of offsite construction, but there's companies that build entire units offsite and then deliver them and kind of assemble it all together just as giant Lego bricks on site. And we've actually interacted and talked with many of these companies. The reality is the work that they've done does not actually lower costs. And so will volumetric uh, construction, offsite construction be the way in the future? It sure could be, but it's not a guaranteed. It's not a silver bullet. It's one piece of a much larger puzzle. And you got to look at the whole puzzle to solve the problem, not just the one exciting element you're seeing in the moment.
Love it. Love it. I told y'all. I told y'all. Mr. Kaeding, spilling the absolute tea. We have to go to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have the incredible CEO, owner, founder of Norhart Industries, and Mr. Mike Kaeding, and he's spilling the tea on the real estate development industry. If you missed any of his knowledge, he shared some of his backstory, and he shared what we can look forward to in advancing technologies when it comes to real estate development technologies, and how we can actually save money and cut costs. If you missed any of that, if you're just tuning in, go back, scroll back, and check him out. Mr. Kaeding, culture is a part of your company. You've ingrained it, you've instilled it. It's a big focus, and it's also something you coach to. Culture, having a great culture and finding the best people within an organization is absolutely crucial. When you're dealing with contractors, lawyers, documents, engineers, plumbers, everything. How important is it to build a great culture and find the best people in the beginning?
Yeah. What's interesting is if I would boil things down to the single most important tip that you can learn, it's finding the best of the best people. And I don't mean that as just kind of a statement. It is literally what we fight for. We have employees that live in Florida and we fly them up to Minnesota every single week to work because they're the best at their niche of their job. We have a international team as well. We work really hard to find the very, very best people. And I didn't always understand that. But deep down, what we find is the best of the best people outperform the average person by 2, 3, 5, even 10 times as much. And I've seen it over and over again. So a lot of people think, well, I can't afford the best people. The reality is the best people are the most inexpensive when you look at how much they produce compared to how much you're paying them. And building the right culture is foundational. I often say that we don't look at employees like, oh, you should be happy that you're working for us. No, instead, I need to come in every single day to work to earn the choice for you to work here. And it's not the other way around. So there is so much we do to support that. And probably the most foundational thing, though, is making sure we find the great people. Because a great workplace, a place that you love coming to work every day, is simply amazing coworkers. Yes, we have to get pay right. We have to get benefits, have to all be top of market. But to make your experience wonderful, it's about the people you're working with, about people that are sharpening and that are making you better. That you just enjoy working with overall.
Mr. Kaeding, you're so right. Mr. Kaeding, you're so right. And sir, and that you got me on board when you said fly someone out to come actually boots on the ground, face to face, right? That's light years apart of any major competitor, right? No competitor is doing that. Everybody's Zoom or just this insensitive touch.
Well, yeah, and if you look at construction in particular, it's not known for having very good culture. It's a very rough and tumble kind of environment. And I often have orientation. It's a couple hours long where we talk about all the principles of our company and the things that we're doing. And people during orientation look at me and say, Mike, I don't believe it, right? You're painting this picture of this culture that's really good. It does not happen in construction. And my response every single week is, okay, you're going to come back in 2 months, in what we call follow-up orientation. You tell me what you see. And without fail, people come back 2 months later and say, Mike, I thought you were full of it during orientation, but this is real. The experience I have out here is real. It's amazing. I love the people I work with. And so it that is one of the strategies to reducing costs, is creating that kind of culture.
Love it. Mr. Kaeding, sir, interest rates are on the rise, and the Federal Reserve it appears there's no slowing down for them. Despite the suspected slowing of inflation, they've announced that they're going to raise interest rates several more times. How does that affect the real estate development business and industry, and what should we do? No one has a crystal ball, right? No one has a crystal ball, but what should we do to prepare for the inevitable?
Yeah, what's really interesting, as interest rates rise, what we're seeing is that banks are becoming more skittish, right? They're not providing as much loan proceeds or money to a project that they otherwise would. And our latest project is about $100 million valuation for the project. The bank traditionally would give us 75 million, but now it's dropped down to 55 million. So we got to find other avenues to bring capital in. And for us, we're launching a Norhart Invest platform to help bridge some of those gaps. But I think the interesting kind of macroeconomic thing that's happening is the number of new houses being produced, the number of new apartments being produced is actually falling. The starts are falling right now, despite a greater need than ever for that housing. And so you won't see that impact for a couple of years, because it takes a couple of years for these things to ramp up or ramp down. But I could definitely see us in the next couple of years being in a tough spot with our housing because of the pullback in the new housing construction market as it relates to rising interest rates.
Love that. So true. So true. Mr. Kaeding, the biggest complaint that I hear, I'm a landlord myself.
Mm,
It's a pitfall, right? It's always the toughest part, in my opinion. It's the toughest part of landlording is keeping rent affordable, keeping it at a
yeah.
fair price, staying at the current economic rate, but not scaring away the tenants that you currently have or could potentially have, and overcharging to that effect. How does Norhart suggest keeping rent affordable for its clients?
Yeah, this is an interesting nuance to point out, in that we'll always price our apartments at market rate. So whatever the fair price is, what other people are charging in the area, we're going to price it to that level. What we are thinking about is much longer term in as far as driving down the cost of rents. By producing more housing, that puts a downward pressure on price, especially if we can scale that up. And we can take that downward pressure in price because of our margins in construction. And our hope is to scale up, to take the profits we're earning, put that into the production capacity of the nation, really, so that we can produce enough units to lower price overall. Why that's so important is, yes, we could lower our prices today, but we wouldn't have the capital to invest in the long-term future. Now, yeah, today, a few thousand residents would have very affordable rents. That's great for them, but I'm not solving it for the nation that way. I want to solve housing affordability at a nationwide, sustainable, market-based approach, which is why we take a little bit different perspective.
Love it. I love it. I want to jump to your website because it's very well done. It's very beautiful. And I want to
Mm.
talk about what can people expect when they find your website and they land on your website. What can people expect when coming to your website? What should they be looking for with the quality that you and your company deliver? And I'm gonna bring it up here
Mm.
on the big screen.
Yeah, we we're a little bit unique, and not everyone loves our design, but we really want to be different. We want to give people that feeling of heart, of connection, like we're trying to elevate the apartment experience. Um, yeah, more than anything, it's probably feeling that heart. We want people to feel a connection to what we're doing. And we're certainly not perfect. We want to keep elevating this. Um, but that's why it's so unique. It's very different. I think most real estate firms are like a bunch of people standing around with their arms folded, and it looks like money or what have you. But that's not what we want to do. We want to get back to the heart of home, which is family. It's heart. It's emotion, which is why we have a unique approach.
And these look beautiful, y'all. For my audio listeners, if you go to his website, norhart.com, it's very well done. The amenities, I would live here tomorrow. They're very well done, very beautiful. But there's, like he said, there's a heart behind it. It's more than just your typical apartment management, real estate development company. You touched on that you were expanding into the investment arena. What does that
Yeah.
look like? Can you tell us what's in store with that? What my investors of my show can expect with Norhart Investments?
Yeah. So we like to try to change as much as we can, which is good and bad. But when we looked at banking right now, uh, we started to wonder, like, could we create a bank? And it turns out the short answer is no, we can't do exactly what we wanted to do. So what we've done instead is we're getting approvals to the SEC, and we're creating an investment platform that our goal in part is to replace banking and allow retail investors, allow everyone to come in and get an interest rate that's higher than the bank can provide them, because not only do they get their interest, they'll actually get the bank's profit on that interest as well. As an investor, you get a pretty high rate of return. You can put money in and take money out as you so choose. And it kind of just eliminates another middleman to the overall project. And so I'm excited about it because I think it disrupts the industry again a little bit, and it allows everyday people to get into real estate and get rates of return that's much higher than they can at a bank.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Mike Kaeding, y'all. Mr. Kaeding, I am a passive investor in real estate.
Mm.
What technologies can I incorporate in my real estate to make it less hands-on and more advanced? For example, is there technologies I can incorporate where I don't have to have as much property management on the ground, or what technologies do you recommend I can make it more of a passive investment in my apartments?
Oh, interesting. I think one of the technologies that's really interesting today is you can get systems in place that answer the phone in a very authentic, real kind of way. That's really impressive. I'm sure you've seen GDP. It's the same technologies
Yes,
that's
sir.
empowering that stuff. You can use through chat systems. You can use it through phone answering. I think another interesting point is remote work. And so we actually have an international team, and half of our property management team is in a different country. So you can lower costs by hiring those kind of people, and they have fantastic skills. They're really good at what they're doing, and they can manage a lot of that interaction for you in a very authentic, real, positive way. So those are two that immediately jump to mind. Other technologies that we're working on is allowing, for example, your watch to be able to unlock every door in your unit, so you're not having to hand keys off to people. That kind of technology is hard to implement, but there are companies that you can buy those sorts of services from today. So those are a few.
Wait. So I was taken back. You said your team is
Oh, uh,
remote property management.
there's not the whole team, but a good chunk of them. Yeah.
What? That is mind blowing. That's scary. That's really is really scary. What areas are you guys strictly Minnesota right now? Is there do you invest in other markets? Are you looking to invest in other markets? If so, what markets?
Yeah, so we're primarily in Minnesota. We do have a facility in Wisconsin, part of our manufacturing. We're expanding into Texas. We're also working to expand manufacturing into Mexico, but that's where we're at today.
Absolutely. What is it you're seeing in those markets?
As far as the rental market or the
Yeah,
manufacturing side?
the rental markets.
Yeah, so you see, what's really interesting is Austin had massive growth in Texas, and right now they're also one of the worst growing groups, in part because so many people built units in that space, and now the absorption is, I think it's 9 or 10,000 units a year, and they're producing like 20 or 30,000 units per year. So it's really out of balance there. We're very interested in the Dallas Fort Worth area where it felt like there was less hype in that space, but it's still a very large market, still a growing market. So we're working on that one. Houston and San Antonio have been interesting to us as well. But I like Texas overall because it has good demographics. It's growing. And for us, we look at where we can stick for a couple of years and see massive growth. So the total number of units produced in Texas right now, I think, is around 60 or 70,000. And so we have a good runway for growth there before having to expand to other states. And that was really attractive to us.
I was just recently in Texas after the COVID-19 pandemic, and just the availability of land, and I was looking at purchasing real estate there, and it was already bought. It was already taken up by most of the developers already there, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't get some dirt. I wanted just some dirt. And the developers were already just buying up droves of land by the dozens, and it
Oh
was it
yeah.
was incredible.
In
So
in Austin, it's really interesting. You can drive around and there's just wide swaths of open land, but you can't buy it. It drives me nuts. And one of the realtors we talked to down there said that he would literally spend all day just walking through farm fields, knocking on houses, trying to get people to be willing to sell their property. It's gotten to that level, and even the city there is just inundated with requests for development. It's hard to even get a conversation and talk with the city. So they're very much overrun with development at the moment.
it is. It is. It is absolutely bananas, y'all. Get in Texas. If you're not, get with Mr. Kaeding and his team and get in Texas before it's all gone. That's one thing I learned. They're not making more land, so get in
Mm.
Texas, y'all. Mr. Kaeding,
One of the companies that we kind of work a little bit with, they actually raised a $30 million fund just to buy land and to sit on it, so they had it available for their developments.
so we're behind the curve, y'all. We're behind. We're
A little bit,
behind.
yeah.
Mr. Kaeding, what question have I not asked you? I feel there's mountains of stuff. You teach to this, you coach to this, you mentor to this. What question that I haven't asked you that you would like to tell my audience, the real estate developers in the audience?
You know, one interesting thing that we're doing is we want to provide open insight. What is it like? We've gone from, very small to about a $200 million valuation today, and we've been doubling in size every year. But we want to open that up and share to the world what that's like, because there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly, right? And it's true about us as well. And so the one way we're doing that is we're starting a podcast called Becoming a Unicorn, which will explore that. What is it like here at our company? We're going to learn from others and share that to the world. So if your audience has interest in that at all, we'll be launching that in the coming months.
Love it, love it, love it. What's the best book? I always ask because leaders are readers, and you're
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're an expert in this space. What's the best book you recommend to someone who's getting their feet wet in the real estate development space?
Uh, so this isn't real estate related, but it was the most impactful for me ever, and I've applied it to real estate. It's called No Rules Rules by Reed Hastings. It is about finding the best people. It's about pulling back the requirements, empowering the people around you to be the best that they can be. And um, I read a lot of books. I read a book a week, and it's one of the ones that totally changed my life.
Whew, love it, love it, love it. That is a book a week. I am behind. I am lagging behind.
Well, there's a cheater way to do it, which is you get it on Audible or some kind of audio, and you listen to it in the car ride. You listen to it during your workout, and so that's how I do it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna step it up. Put it on 2x speed now.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Kaeding, you are incredible. You're absolutely phenomenal, a wealth of knowledge. Sir, how can my audience connect with you? How can we grow with you? How can we learn more?
Mm. Yeah, I would say the first step is just to visit our website, norhart.com. That's norhart.com. There you can learn about our podcast, you can learn about the Invest platform, and then you can also connect with us on social as well through the links at the bottom of the page.
Absolutely. Mr. Norhart, this is off script. I'm going to cheat a little bit because no one has a crystal ball. But do you feel in your personal, this is separate from Norhart, everyone, so don't hold Norhart. But sir, do you feel there's a pullback coming in the upcoming years in the real estate market?
Yes. Oh, for sure. In the real estate market in particular, yes. And the reason is because interest rates are rising. Mortgage rates, I think, are about 77% higher for people than they were a year ago. And somebody has to pay for those higher interest rates. And so, because of that, it's either the buyers or it's the developers or it's the sellers. Somebody, it's probably a mixture of all of them, have to pay for that. That takes steam out of the real estate market. And I have seen it today. Net absorption in apartments is actually negative for the first time I've seen in a decade. And new construction starts has just fallen by the wayside by as much as half. And so, um, yeah, I definitely see uh, challenging times coming ahead.
Absolutely. I had to ask the expert. I had to ask you, sir. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I every investor that I talk to, they're just sitting on capital. They're just sitting on capital. They're salivating, waiting for the ball to drop. So I just wanted to hear it from you. Thank you, Mr. Kaeding. You are absolutely phenomenal, sir. Like, I'm going to put his website back up on the screen, sir. That's www.norhrt.com. Norhart, check him out. Get the link. Get on his podcast. Absolutely phenomenal, man. You won't regret it. We got to let him go. Thank you for being here, sir. It is an honor to have you. Thank you for making time for me and my audience today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. It is absolutely incredible. I hope this message was inspiring, educational, informational. And if you want more knowledge, get in touch with Mr. Mike Kaeding and his team. And if you don't remember anything from this show, get in contact with me and I will get you in contact with Mr. Mike and his team so they can get you to a better place. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast and Mr. Mike Kaeding, CEO and founder of Norhart Industries. Love you guys. Bye.